Hey, thanks, Jane. And thanks, Representative Pierucci, for joining us tonight. This is such an honor. I don't know if you know this, but there are only 104 men and women in the state of Utah, in the whole state, that do what she does. And Representative Pierucci is one of the very special Utahns that does so much work. And she is right in the middle of the legislative session. She's so busy. So we really are honored to have her here for a minute. I just want to give you a quick update on where we are with the Teen Center project, just a tiny bit of background. So as we did the period project last year, and we worked on helping to get period products in our kindergarten through 12th grade schools to help kind of remove a reason why girls wouldn't be able to stay in school. We wanted to make it so that they could stay in class, kind of remove that barrier, because sometimes when you'd, have an accident or you'd need something, you'd have to go home, you'd have to leave class, call a parent, do something like that. And so that was one thing that we could help do and take care of that would keep girls in school. And so as we talked to counselors and we talked to teachers and principals, they said, you know what, there are other things like that at school for our kids that are making it hard for them to learn. Some of them are coming to school hungry. Some are coming stressed out. Some are coming and they're cold. They don't even have a coat on. I've seen kids at school cold because the air conditioning was on too much. I mean, there's just like all these different kinds of reasons. And they said, we're having trouble teaching kids when they don't have some of these things taken care of. And so as we talk to legislators and we talk to community members, we realize that there are just a few schools out there who've done something really cool. They've created a space inside their school where the kids can go and take care of those things. They can wash their clothes if they need to. There's a washer and dryer. There might be a shower if they need to take a shower. There might be food. They're hungry and they need a snack, or maybe if they need to take something home for dinner that night, there might be something there too. But then also a grown-up, a trusted adult, a school counselor, or a teacher that they could talk to. And if they said, you know what, I don't have a quiet place to study at home. Can I study here? Or I'm having trouble, catching up in my math class and I don't know how to talk to my math teacher about that. Can you help me out with that? So they're finding in the few schools that have done this that it's actually helping these kids a whole lot. So when they go to the classroom, the teachers feel like, okay, these kids are taken care of. The kids are feeling like better and more confident. And so it's really helping kids in those schools. And so we talked to Representative Pierucci and we talked to other legislators and said, hey, we want to try and set some money aside during this legislative session to help schools build that space, because building takes money, right? If you ever build an addition onto your house or you've built something, it costs money for all of the materials. And so we came up with an idea that we could ask the legislature for some money that would help our schools pay for these things. And so we have done that. We're working on it. The legislature's been really supportive, but we're not quite to the finish line yet. We're still working on it. But the great thing is, as we've met with you all and seen you at events and you've written your postcards, we've taken those up to the Capitol and given them to the legislators, and they've read them. They've read your stories. They've heard your voices. We know that because we've taken them up personally and given them to them. And so we're so grateful for the stories that you've shared and for the things that you've said that help that influence them and make them feel like this is something that's really needed and something where they should put some of our money. We read a study not too long ago. Oh, wait, Brooke's going to share some of these really cool pictures. Look, there's one. I was at the Capitol. I'm holding up one of those postcards. You can see a legislator put all of the postcards that he'd received out on his laptop and took a picture and sent it back. So we just wanted you to see that they are getting those, just like they did last year with the Period Project. They're getting the Teen Center Project postcards as well. And I just want to say one last thing. There was a study and an article that came out not too long ago that said that our teenage girls especially are feeling overwhelmed with sadness and trauma and not feeling connected at their schools. And it's actually really the numbers that they're finding is scary and alarming for a lot of us. And so the thing that they're finding is that investing this money in our schools and finding ways in our schools to help kids feel connected is such a great way to help everyone. It makes people feel more confident. it helps their mental health. It helps do a lot of those things. And so we're finding now, even as those counselors told us months ago, it's finally coming out in studies that kids need to feel connected at school. And so as you all are the future leaders of Utah and America and the world, if you look around the classroom or the cafeteria and you see other students, chances are they could use some connection. And so you guys can be the one to help do that. So reach out, invite somebody to sit with you at lunch, give them a smile, say hello. It turns out there's a lot of kids out there who need connection, and you guys can be the ones that can help do that. So we thank you for all of your support with the Teen Center Project. We're grateful for Representative Pierucci. She'll talk about the important part that she's playing in that. But anyway, we just wanted to give you that update. Things are going really well, and we're so grateful for your participation and your support with all of that.
Thank you so much, Mary Catherine. That was so great. Okay, really quick introduction because I see that we only have 20 minutes left. Representative Pierucci received her bachelor's degree in political science with an emphasis in American government from Utah Valley University and her master's degree in public administration from University of Utah. She was the youngest woman to be elected into the House of Representatives. She's a mother and currently serving as the chair of education, and also serves on the following committees: transportation, government operations, and public education appropriations. And with that, we'll turn the time over to you, Representative.
Thank you, Mary Catherine and Jane. I appreciate that. You'll have to forgive me. So my husband serves on city council, and he was driving home tonight and his windshield wiper broke off, and he just came in soaking wet. He had to roll down the window, so I apologize for laughing. He's okay, obviously. Well, hey everyone, thanks for having me tonight. You're part of a really awesome project that does great things up at the Capitol. The postcards you send really do work. It's not very often we get handwritten letters or postcards, so those are really effective. And your group is known for a force for good up at the Hill. So when I was approached to see if I could help with this, I absolutely wanted to. I had an experience growing up. I represent the Harriman Riverton area, and I went to Riverton High School, and I was in AP classes my senior year. And growing up, one of my class friends, you know, those people you know from class, but you're not BFFs, but you're friendly, came up to me and said, "Hey, I don't have a place to stay this week. Can I come sleep over at your house so that I can get some sleep before the test?" And she came over, my parents pulled a mattress into my room, and it was really eye-opening for me as a teenager to realize that not everyone grew up in a very supportive home and had a warm bed that they could sleep in the night before a test. So this is a really important project to me. I think we need to make sure our students' needs are met. In political science, which hopefully some of you are political science bound, you talk a lot about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You might have talked about them already in maybe a social science course, but talks about as humans, our basic level of human needs need to be met before we can really achieve higher levels. And that's where I feel this Teen Center project falls in, is that we're making sure kiddos have access to food, resources, and a place to stay and get connected to the right places if they need it. So really happy to be working on this. Hopefully on Friday, EAC will make their final announcement, so we'll know there, but I am hopeful that we'll do really well. So a little bit, I was asked to talk a little bit about my leadership experience and how I got here. So Jane is correct. I was elected at 27. I'm the youngest woman to serve in Utah. And in 2019, I got my master's, had my baby the same week I finished my thesis. And then 6 months later, I ran for office. So 2019 was kind of a banner year for me. You can do anything that you put your mind to. And honestly, I had always loved politics. In high school, I loved government classes. I'd done an internship at the state capitol as a senior in high school, and I knew I wanted to be there someday to make a difference. I went to work for a congressman for a bit, then I went to work for a think tank. And while I was working at this think tank, a news story broke that my representative had resigned. And I just had this thought, run, Candice, run. And my husband called me, and I was calling him at the same time. And he said, "Did you feel it? You're running." And so it wasn't something I thought I would do while I had a baby and a really young family, but we felt like it was a good fit for our family. And honestly, we felt like we had a missing voice up at the Hill in terms of someone who's balancing their budget and trying to pay for groceries and gas and raise a young family. So we decided to run, and I won. And anyways, I've been going since then. But as I've thought a little bit about this, what I'd want to share with you guys, a couple of things came to mind. I actually started running for office in 6th grade. So I ran for the elementary student council. You guys have probably never heard of Aaron Carter, but he had this song, I Want Candy. I handed out candy and sang that song, and I won. It was like a winning campaign strategy. So in 6th grade, I was on the elementary student council. And then I'll tell you, every year after that, I ran for office and lost. I always got into the final round, but I never made it after that. And I found other ways to get involved by being on like peer leadership team, FBLA, a cappella choir, you name it, honors program, all the different things. So I tell people that because just because you lose once doesn't mean you won't win later on, and to not give up. But also, one thing that I like to share when I talk to students, not kids, in high school. I graduated high school in 2010, so I seem ancient compared to you guys. But it wasn't that long ago for me. But one thing I try to emphasize is using your courage muscle. And I don't know if you can think of a moment where you were terrified or embarrassed or scared, but you did something anyways. And that moment for me was in 7th grade at the bus stop when the school bully told a kid named Andre, who I have no clue what he's doing now, but this kid always picked on Andre. And everyone kind of like kept to themselves because no one wanted to get picked on, and they were worried they'd inflict the wrath of this bully. And one morning I'd had enough, and I finally stood up to this kid. He said, "No one cares about you, Andre." And I said, "That's not true. Knock it off." And everyone got quiet. And I said, "You're a bully and have a foul mouth. And if you don't leave him alone, you're going to be in trouble." And, in that moment, I was so embarrassed, but it was the beginning of using my courage muscle. And after that, you will find that you have so many moments in your life to flex that courage muscle. And the more you use it, the stronger it gets. And so I will tell you, from standing up to the bully at the bus stop in 6th grade, I have had a lot of moments in my life to be able to stand up to bullies and to be able to stand up to people who think maybe I can't do this and push back. And your courage muscle gets really strong, and it gets a lot easier over time. So that would be one piece of advice, is to use your courage muscle. Give yourself 3 seconds to respond to that gut feeling to do something right and to stick up for someone. The other thing is, I wrote on here, haters gonna hate, hate, hate. Just like Taylor Swift said, there are some people who will support you in your life, and you should surround yourself with those people, whether it's your family, a close friend, people who believe in you. Those are the people you should surround yourself with. But there are going to be some people who are no good. They just constantly want to tear you down, and for whatever reason, they don't have your back. What I would say is, don't waste your time trying to please those people. One thing I found working and being in politics is you have to grow thick skin pretty quick. And I get called a lot of names and have a lot of terrible things said about me. But at the end of the day, my philosophy is, when I'm offended, I just smile bigger. And so sometimes at the end of a conversation, I'll have my internal say, "Oh, do you know that person?" I was like, "No, they just offended me." And so I was trying to smile. So that for me has always been something I go to, is I try and smile and kill people with kindness, but also stand up for yourself when you need to. And then another thing I think too, there is so much contention either on social media. I'm sure you guys see it a lot. There's a lot of contention in politics, and that drives a lot of great people away, honestly, from getting involved, which is super unfortunate. But we can disagree without being contentious. And that's something I've tried to do, that when I'm speaking with my colleagues or advocates or people I know up at the Hill, I can disagree with them. I can think an idea is terrible, but I don't have to tear someone down as a person. And I think that's something we have to get better at doing in politics. And as you young leaders work on different policies, whether it has to do with selecting a location for your high school dance or getting the yearbook ready, or, you know, whatever your responsibilities may be, you're going to interact with people that you disagree with and you're going to have conflicts about. And that doesn't mean you have to stand down or not voice your opinion, but there's a way to disagree and not do it disagreeably. So one thing I try and do is not make it personal. I always focus on the policy or the issue at hand, and make sure that I'm not being rude, if that makes sense, right? That I'm trying to let people know where I'm at. And I'm a pretty straight shooter, and you'll find that that will take you far in life. Very few people actually share how they feel. It's crazy. I don't know how they live, but there are a lot of people who don't share how they feel. And I promise you will be much happier in life if you learn to manage your own expectations and other people's expectations of you. And most of that comes from you voicing what you're thinking. And that especially applies in politics. And so there will be people, I know I need to go talk to them on an issue, because if not, they'll be offended because they view themselves as the expert on that issue. And so I go and chat with them just so they don't feel offended, right? But not everyone knows you know where people are at, and you have to be really vocal with them. The other thing I would say is to work hard. If you can, I'm guessing most of you are juniors, seniors, sophomores. Do we have everyone from middle school to high school on here? Okay, so you are going to have so many opportunities to engage in leadership, and I recommend you take whatever opportunity comes your way. But I would also say, especially your senior year of high school, try and do an internship. And I'd say to definitely do one in college. I don't care what you decide to major in. But I ended up interning out in Washington, D.C. for a United States senator, and it totally changed the path that I was on. And I interned with people who were exercise science majors, biology majors, but they all wanted to have that experience. So I feel like an internship is really awesome and important in terms of developing your leadership skills. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me. Like I said, I decided to intern as a senior in high school. I'd reached out to the representative for my area and said, hey, can I just come shadow you while you're up at the Hill and walk around? And he said, how about this? Don't tell anyone your age and you can be my intern. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And later I made sure it was legal. But I went up there and I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with the experience. I had so many of the college kids who were saying, wow, you're a really young senior. And I was like, I assumed they were talking about senior in high school. They were talking about senior in college. I was like, yeah, I'm really young. But going up there at 17 truly helped me see the impact you can make and the difference you can have in our state and how rewarding and cool that is. So I highly recommend, if you haven't been up to the Capitol yet, come on up, sit next to me on the floor, because I want you to be able to taste that, to know that, yeah, I actually can make a difference. So I can answer any questions if you want, or if there's another topic you want me to touch on. I know we have a few minutes left.
Thank you so much, Representative. That was incredible and so many good takeaways. Are there any questions from our student ambassadors? While you're thinking, I want to ask you, what's the favorite part of your job?
Honestly, meeting with students. It is really refreshing to meet with people who aren't cynical and who are optimistic and hopeful about the future. So this is one of my favorite things. I love being able to talk about the Capitol with students. And again, I meet with a lot of people who are pretty jaded and pretty set in their ways, but it's really exciting to meet with kids and students and young adults who still have hope that they can make a difference. So that's one of my favorite parts of the job. I love the Capitol. I think it's a beautiful building. And the day that it isn't cool when I walk in is the day I need to leave. So I love walking into that building. And my little boy is 3 turning 4, and with his Legos and building blocks, he builds capitals. And he started now when he was 2. So it's definitely not normal, but the Capitol is his home, and he's going to have a really unique experience as a child up there.
That's awesome. Anyone have a question that they want to ask? Charlotte?
I just had a quick question. Who were like some of the people that like really influenced you to like chase your dreams and like do what you wanted to do?
That is a great question, Charlotte. I will tell you, starting in 5th grade, I started what has become known as the Wall of Women in my office, but there were a few biographies I read in 5th grade. I don't know if people still go to their library anymore, but I checked out a library book at school about Eleanor Roosevelt and then another one about Amelia Earhart. And I just thought they were the coolest ladies I'd ever read about. And so in 6th grade, I put up a poster of Eleanor Roosevelt and then a poster of Amelia Earhart in my home, my room, not my office, my room growing up. And I actually have those same posters hanging on my wall in the Capitol. And I've over time added to it with like Martha Hughes Cannon and Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony. So all the great like heroes of our history, right? So I think it's important to have inspirational people you look up to. But I will tell you, my mom and dad always believed in me. And there was something about my dad that instilled this courage in me. My dad was always the one telling me, we stand up to bullies in this family. We don't sit quiet. And as a Bacchus, that's my maiden name, we had a lot of maxims as a family, but one of them is no one works harder than a Bacchus. And I will tell you, you will find in life, you can outwork most of your colleagues and make up for any lack of talent with hard work. So obviously my parents were really influential in my life. And then I think definitely having those, for me, it was these females in history who had made their mark that were people I could look up to as well.
I loved that question and I love that response. I love that. You can make up for any lack of talent with hard work. That's such a great quote. I'm going to quote you on that.
Yes, it's true.
Does anyone else have a question that they want to ask?
Rachel?
How do you deal with people with really strong opinions that are hard to talk to?
Oh man, this is a nut I'm still working on cracking. About 50% of people, you can genuinely, most people just want to feel heard. If we're being honest, a lot of people who are angry in politics either don't understand it, they feel like something's being pulled over them, that the system's rigged, or they're afraid. And if you can identify which of those things they feel, 50 to 60% of the time, you can decrease the temperature in the room. And so when I'm talking to people at town halls or on the phone or an email, I usually try and get to where they're at. And it really usually does work. A lot of people, there's fear from financial insecurity, a ton of that. There's fear from something being taken away from them, like a freedom or a right. And then there's some people who just don't understand a policy maybe. And so that's fearful for them. So I think trying to actually listen to people, and it's hard because when someone's shouting at you or calling you names, it's hard to try and hear what they're trying to say. I will tell you, I've had a couple times, there was one gentleman he just lost it. He was past the point of reasoning. And I said, you know what? We're going to have to agree to disagree on this. And he was like, no, I refuse to be disagreeing with you positively. And he like went off and I was like, holy cow, you're crazy. And I was like, oh, that's too bad. And I just walked away. That's only one experience I've had. I've been up here 4 years now. Most people, even if we disagree, if I take the time to listen to them, they'll say, you know, we may disagree, but I appreciate you taking the time. So one, I would say trying to listen to people, definitely stand up for yourself. Don't let people push you around. But most people, when you're kind to them, it's disarming because they expect you to be rude in response. And so I'll try and ask a non-political question first, or like if I notice they've got a kid on as their screensaver, or one lady had like a Taylor Swift bracelet, or like something that I can relate to them as a human first, and then build a relationship from there. It goes a long way. And that applies at any age, at any stage of life. So I think even for the kids who maybe have a hard time getting along with in school, maybe try to know a little more about them, and you might see their perspective better.
Awesome. Is there any last quick question before we run out of time? Kate, your microphone is off. Okay.
Oh, okay.
There-
So I just had a question about what is some of the ways that maybe, I don't know, like how do you manage the stress of being a representative and being a mother? And like what are some healthy ways to maybe cope with like those pressures and stuff like that?
These questions are awesome. They're like the deep questions of my soul right now. No, honestly, you have to set your boundaries. You have to have, I have a husband who it's a team effort. And I knew that when I was dating him. I knew that when I was dating people. I wanted to make sure I found someone who I wouldn't have to give up my dreams to marry, and that we would support each other in our dreams. So that's important when you're looking for your partner in life. But you definitely, I'll tell you, during the session, I hire a nanny. So just for 6 weeks out of the year, I do have someone who I trust who can come in. I bring my little boy up to the Capitol with me a lot. I make sure that when I am here, I'm present and paying attention to him. I'll tell you though, my first session, so I was 20, I just turned 27, I believe. And I think I was one of the first young moms the Capitol had up there. And I hate the phrase old boys club, but for lack of a better phrase, we're going to call it that. And there was one day I got asked 14 times in an hour who was watching my little boy. And people were questioning whether or not I should be up there and if it was the best thing for him. And I'm going to be honest, I'm looking at a lot of ladies on the call. I went out to the car in the parking garage and I just started crying. And I called my husband and I was like, why does no one believe I should be here? And he said something that I'll never forget. He said, breaking glass ceilings hurts and it's painful. And he's like, and no one talks about that. And so I'll be honest, it was really hard at the beginning. And it's something I've had to just get better at and being a little more assertive and open about. But guess what? We just had 2 new moms join the legislature this last session. And I helped start the PAC, Republican Women Lead, to get more young Republican women involved. And hopefully in the next decade, when you're up there at the Hill and you have a little boy, no one questions whether or not you should be there. And that's my end goal of all this, that maybe because someone saw it, they think they can do it themselves.
Ah, such a great response and so inspiring to all of us on this call. Thank you so much, Representative Pierucci. It's been an incredible half an hour with you. We so appreciate your time. And thank you to all of our students who joined. We've learned so much from you. And I'm going to definitely send out all of these highlights from our conversation today. I hope you all stay safe and warm tonight and have a great night.
Thanks, guys. We'll see ya.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You bet. Have a good day tomorrow.
Thanks.